Hello, this is Pastor Jerry with Raised, and today I'm going to start a new series of some lessons about chickens. Chickens are a lot of fun in the raised processes. We have various projects here at the Raised Teaching Gardens at Children's Home. We seek to practice what's called permaculture. It's an amalgam of two words, permanent agriculture. And what we do is we have various agriculture projects such as chickens and earthworms and honeybees. We're raising tilapia and rabbits. We will get goats and sheep soon and plan to raise some pigs. And in those things, each individual project feeds the other, so to speak, literally and figuratively. One of the figurative ways is they all work together. The literal part is, for example, with chickens, when we go to a village overseas or here at home when we teach people about home food production, with chickens we recommend. Chickens provide instant meat to a family or to a village. They also provide protein in the eggs and then meat when the chickens stop laying. Also, their fertilizer is really high, rich nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. One thing about chicken manure is it is so what's referred to as hot. It is so high in nitrogen value. You really need to compost it before you put it on the garden so that it doesn't burn the tender plants. The other thing that I do is cow manure is essentially 0.5, and that's simply the ratio of how much nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium is in the fertilizer per 100 weight. So when you got 0.5, that's very mild. You can put dry cow manure right on your garden. Rabbit manure is much the same. We raise rabbits for meat and for manure, and I really don't use the meat because folks are very sentimental about rabbits. But we use mostly their manure. You can put that right on a garden. And so what I'll do is I'll mix maybe one shovelful, perhaps two, for a full wheelbarrow full of cow manure. And so that distributes the amount of nitrogen in the guano or the chicken manure. So we've got various chickens here. I will say much about this is a great coop. I'll take some more pictures inside in just a minute. Boy Scout, young man that I'd coached some at Mooresville High School in Mooresville, North Carolina. I want to say a shout out and a thank you to Alec Lawrence and his dad. His dad is an Eastern Orthodox priest, Father Robert Lawrence. They did a wonderful job. This, you see the chicken run. I'll walk to the back. And so the chickens have free reign. I also let them go out in the pasture and in the fields. They'll forage for various things. They'll eat weeds and bugs and grass and that type of thing. Then they fertilize it. They leave their waste behind, which is a great way. Also, you may be familiar, there are various things like their cage-free eggs. Those still, if they're cage-free, they might be in a very small pen. Then there is ones that are free range, and it might be a small range. This is kind of a small range, though it's pretty big for a coop this size. And so they can come out and forage, and I throw them various things. I let them out into the gardens to eat and between the gardens and things. And then there's pasture raised eggs, and those were out in our pasture. We built a thing called a chicken tractor where they're enclosed, they're safe, they'll lay their eggs, they have a little roost in it. I make those out of pallets, and really I tell folks that we recycle everything. We garden with recycled materials. I'll show you a picture of a chicken tractor soon that's made completely of pallets and some scrap tin that we've recycled. The only thing we essentially have to buy is the chicken wire. And so we put chicken tractors out. They're safe from predators. They'll lay inside of it. They'll eat the bugs and the things you don't want. They'll eat all types of non-beneficial insects, and then they fertilize the pasture. So chickens are a wonderful thing. One of my professors at North Carolina State University, when I went back to get my horticulture education, she said chickens are so much fun. And it really is. It's like dinner and a show. For those of you who may not eat meat, we don't eat our chickens, or we haven't yet. But we sure enjoy their eggs. I've got some that are called Isa Browns. I've got some Americanas, some Oricanas. They lay colored eggs, not just the brown ones. They lay some olive colored eggs and some blue eggs and some seafoam green eggs, and it's just pretty cool when you grow up. For the most part, my grandmother had chickens. She had barred rocks. I'm not going to try to catch one right now. I can, believe it or not. They're quick, but I'm a little quicker even at my age, and tipping the scales at about 220. So probably more information than any of y'all need to know. But I'm thankful to be out here. The barred rocks were a favored breed of my grandmother, and they're laying very well now. They're beautiful. They are black and white, and they're called barred, B-A-R-R-E-D, because they look like bars. And they lay a brown egg. Most of the eggs that you get in the grocery store, they're white. They come from leghorns. If you're familiar with the old Looney Tunes characters, Foghorn, Leghorn, they're large chickens. They're good for meat and for eggs. They lay a nice egg, and they're all white. Some people prefer the brown eggs. There's really no difference nutritionally, given the color of their eggs. What is nutritionally much better is that hens that are not being raised in a egg-laying factory, they're usually in a cage that's just a little larger than they are. They never see daylight, natural light. They don't put their feet on ground. They're in cages stacked up, and a conveyor belt comes by. They eat off of it. They leave their waste right in the place where they stay, and they lay eggs. And also, something that I've learned is that some of the eggs, they have to be shipped to the market usually within 30 days. So a lot of them wait till day 28, 29, just so you've got one shipping time and cost, and then they can stay at the grocery stores before the use date for another 30 days. So you may be getting eggs at the grocery store, and I've bought them there for all of my life, for the most part, until the last 2 years. They can be 45 to 60 days old. I guess nothing wrong with that. They're refrigerated. But these natural eggs, they are so much richer. The first time I saw them, I asked the man who was raising them, why are they so dark? They're almost, the yolks are almost orange. He just laughed. He said, well, they get all the protein and all the calcium that they need. At the many times at the factories, they just get enough calcium kind of to just to keep the yolks in, because calcium costs money, and they're trying to keep costs down. But these hens get all the protein, all the calcium that they want. They're free range. They eat organic food. Give them scraps from the garden, and that's back to permaculture. I will bring this teaching back around. Permaculture, everything works together. We put the chicken manure, we compost it, and we put it on the gardens. We have instant eggs. In time we'll have meats. That's big in third world countries where people are just living in squalor, and food security is in short supply, literally and figuratively. So then everything works together. The scraps from the garden goes to the chickens. Just always research what you give them. Some of the weeds from the gardens, though we don't have many, henbit they love, and it has a lot of vitamin A and I think vitamin C for them. A lot of things that we consider weeds are very good for them. And so the way that God created the universe and the cosmos, the natural ways, I think, are much better. With the rabbits give us protein. They give us manure for the gardens. They eat some of the weeds and some of the things from the gardens. It's interesting with chickens that they can eat the tomatoes and they enjoy them. So if I have a tomato that hornworm or something has bitten or pierced that I don't want to give away, a lot of times they're fine, but I'll give those to the chickens. But you cannot give them the leaves. The leaves are in the nightshade family, and they're not good for chickens. So you just need to research those things. A lot of the other scraps they love. The tomatoes they love. Squash that may be blemished or damaged. And so just research what you have to give to your chickens. Other things that we have, the earthworms. The earthworms sometimes are called soil tractors, because they'll go in. They're wonderful, beneficial animals. They go through and they eat the manure, all the bad things, and then they excrete it. And their waste is called worm castings. It is some of the best fertilizer on the planet. They're great to compost. We raise two kinds of worms. Red wigglers are great for composting. European night crawlers are great for, they're bigger, larger, so they just process more in the garden. They're great in the gardens themselves. Also great for fishing worms. The worms we use for composting, we use for food for the chickens, for the tilapia. They're great to compost. They're great for the soil. And then the excess of those, the chickens love them. The tilapia love them. We put the waste from the tilapia. We take 10% of the water off, which is ammonia, NH3. Plants can't take up NH3, so it'll take a hydrogen ion from the garden, combined to make NH4, which is essentially like Miracle Grow, that is great fertilizer for the garden. So with the tilapia, we get instant protein for villages. Once they harvest the fish, we keep the bones and the entrails, those type of things that are not eaten, and they provide trace minerals and a lot of the minerals that you don't need much of, such as selenium and other trace minerals that come from them. A lot of calcium, all those things. We compost that, goes in the garden. It makes the soil system even better. Got one of the lavender chickens here that actually lays a lavender egg. I think she's going to help me with this lesson a little bit. But you can see how when we raise various things, okay, ladies, just hang on just a minute. Let me do the preaching today. The earthworms help us in a lot of different ways. They go to the tilapia. The waste from the tilapia goes to the gardens. The waste products from harvesting them goes to the compost pile. It helps us a great deal. And then the honeybees. I love to raise bees. If you don't know, there are various types of bees. And so the greatest thing that comes from bees, and I'll have a whole nother series of lessons on that when I teach especially school kids about bees. I'll say, what's the greatest thing that we get? What's the most valuable thing that we get from a hive? And invariably, some children will say honey. You might think that as well. Some who might be a little more knowledgeable, they will say wax, because beeswax is so valuable and so wonderful for various things. And then others will say propolis. It's a kind of bee product that seals the hives. I'm still having to deal with this lady here. I don't want to have to shut the door, but I may have to the coop. But the most valuable thing that comes from any hive in America is pollination. It is said that every third bite on our plate comes from a honeybee. And people will say, well, what about meat? Well, that's the thing I asked those who taught me, my mentors in beekeeping. And they said, well, if it wasn't for them pollinating various grains, alfalfa, things like that, none of us would be able to afford meat. Obviously, all the fruit and vegetables, for the most part, they come from pollinators, of which the honeybee is the most efficient, in my opinion. So from a hive, we get honey, we get propolis, we get wax, and we get pollination. Well, as is the case with a speaker like me, sometimes your congregation goes to sleep, sometimes they look at their watches, sometimes their phones go out. I guess now I'm getting roosters crowing and hens clucking, reminding me that they want to come out here and forage. So this is Pastor Jerry with Raised, and we hope that you've learned a little something today about permaculture. We encourage you, if your municipality, if your neighborhood, if your city allows chickens, think about getting a few. They're not that hard to take care of. They're a lot of fun. They're very social animals. You may or may not want to research. You will want to research whether, I'm going to have to shut this gate. There we go. I got them all stirred up now. You'll definitely want to find out if your municipality allows chickens, whether you can have a rooster, because they crow and that can be a problem for neighbors and things of that nature. But having a few, on average, most breeds will lay anywhere from 250 to 325 eggs a year. The old rule of thumb, and it's not exact, but a hen who is in her prime of laying will lay 6 eggs every 7 days. So we encourage you, think about getting some chickens. If you want to just get hens, you need to know this. those are unfertilized eggs, and that's mostly what we get at the grocery store. Fertilized eggs taste just the same. It's just that if you incubate bait them and do the right things, you can get chicks and grow your flocks that way. But we encourage you to get some chickens. If you don't want a rooster, the eggs will taste the same, and you can get various types of feed. Just do your research, and they're a lot of fun, a lot of learning to them, and actually they're biblical. From Jesus's prophecy about a rooster crowing to how he looked over Jerusalem and gave an analogy about Jerusalem and how he would have gathered them as a hen gathers her chicks. Always try to tie it to the scriptures that give life and give purpose and give hope. And so I'll say this, please, once again, we always ask, pray for Raised Ministries, and we pray that God will bless you. This is Pastor Jerry with Raised saying goodbye and God bless.